Hi there! I decided to make this video to all of those who would prefer to fix a little body damage on their car by themselves, rather than taking it to an expensive auto body shop. The purpose of this video will be to show you the steps I've taken in order to fix a rust hole on my car, and also to show you the mistakes I've made while I was fixing it. So let's get started. Every product or tool I will use for this repair could be found in any auto body shop. Some of them could be found in hardware stores or some online stores. For this type of repair, I will use a wash bucket with a sponge and a car wash, soft cotton cloths, an air-pressured can, tack cloths, a degreaser, a dust respirator and protective glasses, masking tape and some newspaper, various grades of sandpaper, a drill attachable sanding pad, self-adhesive abrasive discs, a sanding block and a sponge pad, a drill attachable wire brushes, a rust reformer, a self-adhesive metal patch, a body filler with spreaders, a plastic mixing board, a primer, preferably 2K, matching paint, 2K clear coat, rubbing and polishing compounds, a wool bathing pad and a sponge polishing pad, a humidifier and a thermometer, a pick and bumping hammer, a glazing and spot putty, an aerosol spray gun, a good quality wax. Here are some tools that I didn't need for the kind of repair I was working on, but they may be very useful for different kinds of repairs. Dent pullers, a body filler shaper blade, scuff pads, hand wire brushes. Here is the area that I'm going to repair today. It has some rust on it and it has a hole that will need to be filled out with a self-adhesive metal patch and body filler. I already washed the car with car wash, and now the area has dried off, so I'm going to use this general purpose adhesive cleaner and this cotton rag to clean the area and remove all the dust and grease. Now I'm going to wipe the area off with a clean rag to make sure that all the repair area is absolutely clean and out of any grease and dust. So now the area is masked off, and I'm gonna wipe it one more time with a clean soft rag, and the next step will be to start removing the paint and the rust. Now I'm ready to start removing the paint and the rust, and I have a couple of tools here that I'm going to use to do that. And first of them is the paint and rust stripper, right? And that's how it looks like. It's very effective with removing any type of rust and paint. I'm also going to use an 80 grit sandpaper that is attachable to this 5-inch disc pad. So I'm going to use that as well. And in order to remove the rust from that hole in here, I'm going to use those wire brushes. I got a couple of these in here. They also are very effective with removing any type of rust. And all of that, of course, is attachable to my drill, which I'm going to use to remove the rust. So now I'm ready to start removing the rust and the paint. And before I start the procedure, I'm going to put my respirator on and my protective glasses. Safety first. Removing rust and paint from ledges like this one here could be done with this type of sponge and sanding paper. It could be bought inexpensively in any auto body shop. Along with this sponge, you could buy this type of sanding paper, from where you could remove a strip and wrap it up around your sponge. Once you do that, you could use it to remove any type of rust and paint from that ledge. As an alternative, you could use this sanding block, to where you would insert this type of sanding paper and put it right in here to where you can create another sanding surface and use that instead of the sponge to remove the rust and paint from that ledge. Using a drill with sanding discs would not be appropriate to try to remove rust and paint from that ledge. Now 80 grit sanding paper will be the right type of paper to use in order to remove that rust and paint from that ledge. So after sanding the area, this is the result of it. I think I pretty much got rid of all the rust and all the paint I needed to get rid in order to perform new fresh painting, and before that applying some body filler. Now I'm going to use a tack glove to get rid of some of the minor dust, but before actually I do that, I'm gonna use this compressed air can to blow some air off. Okay, now I'm going to use a tack glove to clean to get rid of the minor dust and anything that I don't need. I'm just trying to make the area as clean as possible. If there is any rust that you cannot remove, use the rust reformer. It will convert the rust into paintable surface, but it might take up to 24 hours for the rust reformer to convert the rust. It has been 24 hours since the rust reformer was applied. Now it will have to be scuffed with 220 grit sandpaper. After that, the dust will have to be removed with a compressed air can, a soft cotton cloth, and a tack cloth. If the rust was removed perfectly, there is no need to use rust reformer, and you may go to the next step, which will be to apply a self-adhesive metal patch. This is a self-adhesive metal patch sheet. I will cut off a right piece of it that will fit right into the hole that I'm trying to cover. I will also make sure that it's being pushed in a little bit so it's below the surface. This will prepare the area for the body filler. The reason for applying a self-adhesive metal patch is so the body filler will stay in place and won't fall inside the hole. I cut off the right piece of self-adhesive metal patch that exactly fits into the hole. Any excessive metal patch could be sanded off later during the sanding process. In order to cover up the hole, I am going to use Bondo body filler. It comes with a little tube of red hardener that will have to be mixed with Bondo before applying it to the repair area. Before applying Bondo body filler, try to reduce dent to the minimum with dent pullers or suction cups so you can apply as little of the body filler as you can to make the area look good. The mixture could be made on a plastic board that could be bought in an auto body shop or even a grocery store. In order to create the right mixture, I'm going to squeeze out about 1-inch ribbon of the hardener for a golf ball size of Bondo body filler. After that, I'm going to mix it well so it will become one unified color. The mixing procedure will have to be done quickly, as once it's started, the hardening process will begin. The mixture will be applied to the hull with a spreader in thin layers, and it might require to apply up to few layers to get back the factory look. It will take about 10 minutes for each layer to dry off, and once each layer is dry, it will have to be smoothed out. A drill with sanding disc and self-adhesive 80 grit sandpaper could be used to speed it up. Then the sanding block with 80 grit sandpaper can be used to level the surface out. After that, I'm going to use the sanding block with 220 grit sandpaper to put the final touch on the repair area. It is important to make sure that the edge where the filler and metal come together is completely smooth, so when you slide your finger across you don't feel any type of ledge. After that, I'm going to remove the dust created during sanding with an air pressure can and clean the area with a soft cotton cloth and a cotton cloth. If after sanding you would accidentally remove too much of the body filler from the repair area to where it doesn't look good enough, then you may scab the area again with 80 grit sandpaper and apply more of the body filler. If you noticed any imperfections in your body filler application, you may use glazing and spot putty to apply it to those imperfections. Any excess of glazing and spot putty should be sanded off with 220 grit sandpaper, and it should only remain in those imperfections. Now the area is ready for painting. But before we paint, I would like to quickly go over fixing another car body damage with Bondo body filler.
What I'm going to be fixing today is that hole in my door. The first thing I'm going to do is to remove the rust with a wire brush and 80 grit sanding disc attached to my drill. Looks like this. And then the next thing I will do is to use some masking tape to put it around that hole, so then when I will be cleaning it and removing the rust, I will not damage that rubber seal that is located right here and is actually barely visible and will be very easy to damage without appropriate protection. Before I will start removing the rust, I'm going to use this general purpose adhesive cleaner
and a rag with it
to remove any kind of grease or dust that is located around the repair area.
The rust could be removed with 80 grit sandpaper attached to a sanding block, a sanding sponge, or a drill with a sanding pad. To get the rust from the inside the hole, use wire brushes attached to your drill. You could also use a hand wire brush.
Some rust may be impossible to remove, just like in this case here. There is some rust inside of the hole I wasn't able to reach, very small amount of rust, but this rust reformer will convert that rust into a paintable surface. It will require though to work for 24 hours, so I'll be back here tomorrow
and I'll continue working on that hole.
So it has been 24 hours already, and what I have done so far is to use 180 grit sandpaper to lightly scuff the area, and I also use this auto body hammer because there was a little bend over here, so I kind of pushed it a little bit back in.
And the next thing I'm going to do is to rescuff the repair area with 180 grit sandpaper and then clean it with an air pressure can, a soft cotton cloth and a tack cloth.
Now I'm going to use this self-adhesive metal patch to bridge over that hole so that my body filler can grab to it better. And here's a little piece
I cut off with scissors.
and now I'm going to apply this to that hole. I'm gonna use this outer body hammer to gently push that metal patch in. So I applied the self-adhesive metal patch to the hole, and this is how it looks like. Now it is ready for body filler application. So this is my second body filler application. The first one I put on top of the self-adhesive metal patch, and I sanded it with my drill and this attachable pad to which I could attach this 180 grit sandpaper.
It's going to take about 10 minutes for Bondo body application to dry off, but once it's dry,
I'm gonna sand it smooth, and probably after that it will be ready for primer. So this is how the repair area looks like after second body filler application. I decided not to apply the spot putty on it because my area here looks pretty smooth.
I sanded it
with 220 grit already, and I got rid of all of those edges in here, so there's no ledge, and when I move my finger through it, the transition is smooth. So the next step will be to apply primer on it. So I have noticed minor imperfections after I sanded it with 220 grit sandpaper, so I decided to use this glazing and spot putty and applied it to those minor imperfections that I had over there with this spreader. Now I'm gonna wait for about 30 minutes or so, and I'm gonna sand it up just so that glazing and spot putty can stay only in those minor imperfections.
Disregard the primer at this moment. I will go in more detail in the next section explaining how to apply primer and also what is the right primer to apply. At this moment I would like to show when a seam sealer may be useful.
When I was sanding the area,
I managed
to sand off a little bit of that sealer in here. So I got this outer body seam sealer that I'm going to apply over there.
This is a caulk gun with the seam sealer. I will use it to fix the factory sealer that I accidentally scuffed with sandpaper while removing rust from the repair area.
I have also created a little tiny tool that I can use to apply this seam sealer. So it will look just like the original in here. I'm going to use this one
to shape the applied seam sealer so it will match factory one, and this one to apply the seam sealer to replace the broken part.
And before I start doing that, I'm also going to
secure the repair area so the seam sealer will only go to the designated place.
So this is how it looks like after application. I've secured my repair area here so I wouldn't make a mess, and those little tools that if I can call it that way, well, I simply cut them off
from my used spray can.
And they were very good with spreading, especially this one.
With spreading seam sealer to replace the factory one and the damaged area. Let's now move on to painting. Everything that was done up to this point was just a piece of cake with comparison with the painting process. I'm going to demonstrate how I painted the repair area in the form of pictures and a slideshow. In this demonstration I will show two ways how to paint a repair area with aerosol spray cans after Bondo body filler application. The first way will show how to paint the repair area only. I will also show on what situations this method might be more recommended over painting entire panel. The second way will show how to paint the entire panel. In this situation, you don't need to paint the entire panel. I will show how to paint just the repair area. Here is how the repair area looks like after a year and a half. The area in the red circle contains the 80 grit scratches from paint removal. Scuff this area with 320 grit sandpaper to convert the 80 grit to 320 grit scratches. Refer to your primer can label for the recommended sandpaper grit for surface preparation, as it may be different than 320 grit. Scuff the area between blue and red circles with 500 or 600 grit sandpaper. This area will act as overspray area when you prime the area in the red circle. You want to prime the area in the red circle only. Check your paint spray can for recommended sandpaper grade for surface preparation to scuff this area. Scuff the area between blue and purple circles with 1000 grit sandpaper. This area will act as overspray area while painting. When you start the painting process, you don't want to spray on the 1000 grit area in the purple circle. It is only meant for the mist from overspraying, so apply paint carefully. Every area that is being primed, painted, or clear coated needs to be scuffed first, or your paint job will peel off. You will only be painting to cover up the primed area in the red circle and the 600 grit scratches in the blue circle. After scuffing is done, use a compressed air can to blow all the dust off of the repair area. Use a soft cotton cloth to wipe the area, and lastly, wipe the area with a tight cloth. Mask off the surrounding area with newspaper and masking tape to protect it from spraying mist, and then clean the repair area again to make sure there is no residue or dust left. Primer application. There are many different types of primers available. I am only going to mention a couple of them. Primer sealer. This type of primer doesn't need to be scuffed prior to applying paint on it. The paint will adhere to it chemically after the last coat of primer flashes off. Read the instructions on the spray can to find out what are the flash-off times and what is the recommended sandpaper grade that should be used prior to applying primer. One of the best primer sealers in aerosol that can be used is the Epoxy Primer 2K, and it is manufactured by Rust-Oleum, Spraymax, and other brands. Sandable primer. If you are using just regular sandable primer, then the flash-off times are usually about 10 minutes in between new coat applications. Temperature and humidity may change this time. 3 coats will be sufficient to cover the repair area. While spraying, hold your spray can parallel and anywhere from 8 to 16 inches from painted surface, and use even sweeping motion. Check your spray can for more information. To avoid runs and sags, apply in light coats. First coat should be thin and you may still see the repair area through it. Following coats should be slightly thicker. After about 30 minutes from applying the last coat, you will have to sand it with 600 grit sandpaper, so the paint will have mechanical adhesion, and then clean the area of dust and apply base coat, which is your paint. Flash off means partially dry. It is the wait time between new coat applications. There is about 10 minutes drying period between applying new coats. This time may vary depending on the temperature, humidity, and the type of primer you are using. A hazy finish means that paint has flashed off. Check the instructions on your spray can. Flashing off will take longer if the temperature is low and humidity is high. One component versus two component in regard to primer, paint, and clear coat. 1K is a one component product like primer, paint, or clear coat that uses no hardener. It means that after it was applied and dried off, it could be wiped off with a rag soaked in lacquer thinner. Don't use 1K clear coat as it won't last long and could be easily damaged by even bird waste. 2K
is a two-component product that uses a hardener. 2K products don't dry like a 1K. The 2K product cures. Most high-quality 2Ks are insoluble after a full cure and will not soften when exposed to solvents like thinners or gas. Usually, the best temperature to spray paint with aerosol cans is between 50 degrees and 95 degrees Fahrenheit, with humidity less than 80%. But this may be different with the spray can you are using. Read the labels on your spray cans. Shake the spray can for a minute after mixing bowl moves freely before you start using it. Remember also to shake the spray can for 10 seconds after each minute of use. This rule applies to priming, painting, and clear coating. What to do if you get runs or sags while spray painting? If you accidentally manage to get any runs or sags while spraying, you will have to wait until the primer dries off and send off the sags. This will most likely show the bare metal. At this point, you will have to rescab and reprime the repair area. This rule applies to priming, painting, and in some cases to clear coating, depends on how severe the sags are. If you are spraying metallic paint and got some sags, you will have to wait for the paint job to dry off and sand off the sags with 600 grit sandpaper. Sanding metallic paint will remove the metallic flakes from your paint job and will turn the paint dull. Scab the painted area with 600 grit sandpaper and apply a coat or two of paint to get the metallic finish back. If you went through the primer to the bare metal while removing sags, then you will have to reprime again. Always remember that the area that you are going to spray on must be scabbed first or your paint job will peel off. If you got runs or sags on the clear coat and they are not too bad, just let them be, and later, once the clear coat cures, you may use 1000 or 1500 grit sandpaper to remove them, and use rubbing and polishing compounds to fix the area. But be careful, don't sand too hard or rub too hard, or you may go through the clear coat and may have to reprime, repaint, and re-clear coat again. Wet sanding is more recommended with sandpaper grades of 1000 and higher. The water cleans off the grit of sandpaper, so wet sanding will be much more efficient than dry sanding when using higher grades of sandpaper. Each piece of sandpaper will last longer if you wet sand. Apply first coat of primer. For this type of repair, you will want to hold the spray can rather closer to the painted area than farther. But don't keep it too close than the recommended minimum distance on the label of your spray can, or you may get some runs and sags. 5 inches distance might still be acceptable while you spray, as long as you adjust the speed of moving the spray can enough not to get the sags. The reason of having all the areas scabbed prior to spray painting is so your paint job adheres. It's mechanical adhesion. If the painted area wasn't scabbed prior to spray painting, then the paint job may peel off after it cures or dries off, so do thorough job with scabbing prior to spray painting. Flash off time, the time before applying another coat. For 1K sandable primer is about 10 minutes. For the flash off time for 2K primer, relate to the label on the spray can. The 2K primer is of higher quality as it comes with a hardener. Use the Aerosol spray cans marked 2K for better lasting results. It's okay if first primer application didn't cover the repair area completely. Let it flash off and apply second coat but slightly thicker this time. Make it medium wet. Apply second coat of primer. After second coat of primer flashes off, apply third coat of primer, making sure that all the repair area is completely covered. Paint application. If you used the primer sealer or primer sealer 2K, refer to the label on the aerosol spray can for flash-off times and sandpaper grits, if any. This type of primer does not need to be scabbed in order to apply base coat, which is your paint, on it, as the paint will adhere chemically. However, there is a short time window for the paint to be sprayed on the primed area. You will find this time on your spray can. Wait through the recommended time after applying last coat of primer so it can flash off, and apply first coat of paint on it. The ability to apply paint and primer before it cures completely is called wet-on-wet application. If you used descendable primer, then 30 minutes wait time after the last primer application should dry it off. Check your spray can for more information. Next steps are to scuff the primed area with 600 grit sandpaper so your paint will adhere. It will be mechanical adhesion. Use a compressed air can to blow all the dust off, and use a soft cotton cloth and a tack cloth to wipe the area clean and apply first coat of paint. How to find out what paint color do you need to exactly match your car's paint? In order to get the right paint that will match your car's paint, you will have to find out what is your car's paint color code. There are several places this number could be located on your car. The most common one is either on the left or right front door jamb. It could be also placed on a plate that is located under the hood on either the left or right corners close to the windshield. If you can't find it, then your car dealer or any auto body shop can help you. Here is an example of where the plate with your paint color code could be located. In this case, it is located on the driver's door jamb. The color code for this car is 4S2. If you can't find any auto body shop that will carry the type of paint that you need, you should be able to find it at the parts store at your local car dealer. There are also companies around that will make the paint for you. Apply first coat of paint. Spray paint inside the blue circle. It's okay if first coat didn't completely cover the repair area. There is about 10 minutes flash off time for 1K paint in aerosol spray can. For 2K paint flash off times, refer to the label on the spray can. After the first coat of paint flashed off, apply the second coat within boundaries of the blue circle. Make it medium wet. After second coat of paint flashes off, apply the third, final coat of paint, making sure that the entire primed area is completely covered. Here is a tip. If you got any runs or sags at this stage, let the paint job dry off and sand off the runs and sags with 600 grit sandpaper. After that, rescuff the painted area with 600 grit sandpaper and apply 1 or 2 coats of paint. If during removing the sags you went through the primer to the bare metal, you will have to reprime the repair area. It's recommended to remove the paint job prior to repriming though. Let the last coat of paint flash out for 30 minutes before applying clear coat on it. Read the labels on your clear coat and base coat spray cans to verify that this flash off time is 30 minutes, and if it's not, follow the time on your spray cans. Clear coat application. After 30 minutes has passed, apply first coat of clear coat, and make sure to use a 2K clear coat. Apply first coat medium wet and let it flash off for 10 minutes. After that, apply about 4 to 5 more full-on wet coats, separating each coat with about 10 minutes flash off time. It's okay to overlap strokes while spraying. The point is to apply wet coats but not to get sags. Try not to spray on the very edges of the purple circle to avoid going outside its borders. This could cause the clear coat to peel off from that area as it was not scuffed. If there will be any 1000 grit scratches left after you are done with clear coating, then they could be removed later with Maguire's fine or medium cut cleaner and polishing compound applied to the attachable to your drill buffing and polishing pads. After applying the last coat of clear coat, wait for a few hours and remove the masking tape with the newspaper. Buffing and polishing. After about 2 or 3 days, you can buff the clear coat to the original finish. Apply small amount of medium or fine cut cleaner by Maguire's to the clear coated area and use the wool buffing pad attached to your drill to blend the area to the original finish. You might apply the compound either to the pad or to the newly painted area, but apply it in little amounts. You will find all the information on how to use it on the product's bottle. Start up with very slow RPM speeds or the compound will spread all over the place making a mess. Be gentle with it and don't push hard or you will damage the clear coat and will have to repaint the area. Keep on moving the drill while buffing or you might burn through the clear coat. Be super careful with any kind of edges while you buff as it is very easy to burn through them. After you are done with the medium cut cleaner, clean off the area with a damp cloth to prepare it for polishing compound. After that, dry the area with a dry soft cotton cloth. When that's done, switch the wool buffing pad to a foam polishing pad on your drill and apply small amounts of polishing compound either to the pad or to the clear coated area itself. Start with slow RPM to avoid the mess and keep on moving your drill while polishing to avoid burning through the clear coat. You may polish the entire car with the polishing compound for best results. Here is a tip. After you are done with the rubbing compound, which is your fine cut or medium cut cleaner by Meguiar's, it is also recommended to use a swirl remover before using a polishing compound. The swirl remover will erase all the swirls and scratches that might have been created with fine cut or medium cut cleaners and will nicely prepare the surface for polishing compound. If you decide to use the swirl remover, then you will need to use a fresh foam polishing pad with it so it won't get mixed with the polishing compound. After about 3 months, you may apply wax to the painted area to increase your paint job protection and add some shine. You will get the best results by applying wax to entire car every couple of months. The instructions on how to apply wax are located on the wax bottle. This completes the painting process. You may also choose to paint the entire panel instead of just the repair area. If you would rather go this route, here are the brief steps of how that could be done. I already explained in the previous demonstration how to deal with sags, matching paint, why it is better to pick 2K aerosol spray can over 1K, and other important things. In this demonstration, I will only show how to prime, paint and clear coat the entire panel. Mask off the entire panel with masking tape and newspaper. The newspaper in these areas is neatly taped onto the door jamb. Once the masking is done, close the door and make sure that the newspaper doesn't touch to the door edges. While applying the masking tape, make sure that it doesn't directly touch to the panel that you are going to paint. Try to maintain a small tiny gap, as small as possible, less than 1 mm, between the tape and painted surface. The reason for doing that is so when later you will remove the masking tape, it won't try to pull off the edges of your new painting job that could stick to the masking tape if it was directly touching to the painted panel. You have an option to either carefully mask off the door handle or remove the door panel from passenger compartment and unscrew the door handle. In this case, the handle was carefully masked off. Scuff the area in the red circle with 220 grit sandpaper to convert the 80 grit scratches to 220 grit, or whatever grit is recommended for surface preparation on your aerosol primer spray can. Scuff the entire panel outside the red circle with 600 grit sandpaper, or whatever grit is recommended for surface preparation on your paint spray can. Use a sponge pad with sandpaper wrapped around it. You may also use a gray scuff pad as it is flexible and will easily touch up to any edges or curves. Make sure that the panel is scuffed thoroughly and you don't see any non-scuffed spots. After that, clean the entire panel, making sure that all the dust is off of it. To clean it, use a compressed air can along with a cotton cloth and a tack cloth. You may also use a cleaner degreaser. Apply 3 coats of primer inside the red circle to cover up the repair area. Each coat should be separated with about 10 minutes flash-off time. Check your primer can for the flash-off times. For better lasting results, use 2K primer. Apply primer. Apply 3 coats of primer, giving each coat about 10 minutes flash-off time. If you used primer sealer, recommended epoxy primer 2K, then you may apply first coat of paint on the entire panel after the last coat of primer flashes off. Check the primer can for the flash-off times. Primer sealer doesn't need to be scuffed prior to applying base coat on it. If you used sandable primer instead, then wait about 30 minutes after last coat application. After that, scuff the primer inside the red circle with 600 grit sandpaper and clean the area again, making sure all the dust is gone. Paint application. Apply paint to the entire panel. First coat might not cover the repair area completely. It's okay to overlap strokes. Plan on applying 2 to 3 coats. Give about 10 minutes flash-off time between coats and about 30 minutes flash-off time before applying clear coat. Apply clear coat. After 30 minutes has passed, apply about 4 to 6 coats of clear coat with your aerosol spray can. Make first coat medium wet and all the rest of the coats full-on wet. Use 2K clear coat. Give 10 minutes flash-off time between each coat. After last coat of clear coat was applied, remove all the masking tape with the newspaper from the painted panel. Do it extremely carefully. If you would wait for the clear coat to cure and then remove the masking tape, then the chances are that you may pull off some clear coat that was applied right by the masking tape and might have stuck to it while you were spray painting. After about 3 months, you may apply wax on the painted area to increase your paint job protection and add some shine to it. You will get the best results by applying wax to the entire car every couple of months. The instructions on how to apply wax are located on the wax bottle. This completes the painting process. I ended up with painting a few panels of this car, and here are a few examples of how masking could be done. In this picture, I tucked masking tape under the headlight without even removing it. This made it easy to mask off the headlight before painting the front fender. It was also possible to tuck the masking tape between the rear bumper, rear taillight, and rear fender. This made it quite easy to mask off the rear fender for painting. In this situation, I wasn't able to tuck the masking tape in. I had to tape it very precisely to the rubber surrounding the small back window in this car. I also maintain a small tiny gap, less than 1 mm, between the painted surface and the masking tape, so when I removed the masking tape, I reduced the risk of the clear coat sticking to the masking tape and being pulled off or damaged around the edges. Small, barely visible gap that is less than 1 mm. Here is another example where I'm masking off the front fender, where partially I am able to tuck the masking tape in. The right side had to be precisely covered with the masking tape. Here is how I masked off the Toyota sign on the hood before painting it. Here is the wiper fluid sprayer that is masked off. And here is the front bumper that's ready for painting. At this stage, I am masking off the surrounding area so I can paint the entire panel. This panel was the one that had a hole in it. Notice the green masking tape. How did the repair area turn out? Here are some example pictures of how the repair turned out. The pictures of the repaired area were taken 1.5 years after the repair was done. Here is where the repair area was. Here is the panel before painting, where less than 1 mm gap was maintained between the masking tape and the painted surface. Notice how nicely the painted area turned out with the less than 1 mm tiny gap between the masking tape and the painted area. The rubber remained black on the edges, just like it was before painting. Here is how the seam sealer repair turned out after painting. After all, I decided to repaint the entire car red. No, I didn't. It's a joke. Disregard that. My car is still gold. Let's summarize the repair process. Step 1. Wash the car or at least repair area thoroughly. You may also use a degreaser to clean the area. Step 2. Mask off the repair area with masking tape and newspaper. Step 3. Use 80 grit sandpaper to remove the paint and rust from the repair area. You may use a drill with sanding discs or just sanding blocks. In case of a whole repair, you may use wire brushes. If there is rust you can't remove inside the hole, use rust reformer in aerosol spray can. Step 4. Use dent pullers if you need to. Step 5. Use a compressed air can, a soft cotton cloth, and a tack cloth to clean the area. Step 6. Apply self-adhesive metal patch if you are repairing a hole. Step 7. Apply Bondo body filler. It may take more than one application. Step 8. Wait about 10 minutes before leveling down body filler application with sandpaper. You may start with coarse sandpaper grit, like 80 grit at first, and finish with 320, or whatever grit is recommended for surface preparation on your primer spray can. Step 9. Scuff the repair area with 320 grit sandpaper. If you paint repair area only, follow the steps on the left side of the screen. Step 10. Back sand outside 320 grit scratches with 600 grit, approximately few inches. Step 11. Back sand outside 600 grit scratches with 1000 grit, approximately few inches. Step 12. Mask off the repair area with masking tape and newspaper. Step 13. Clean the area thoroughly with a compressed air can, a soft cotton cloth, and a tack cloth. Step 14. Apply 3 coats of primer within 320 grit scratches. If you used sandable primer, then give about 10 minutes flash of time between each coat. Wait for 30 minutes after last coat was applied and scuff the primed area with 600 grit sandpaper. If you used primer sealer, recommended epoxy primer 2K, then you do not need to scav the primer prior to paint application. Use 2K spray cans and refer to the flash of times on the cans. Step 15. Apply 3 coats of paint within 600 grit scratches, giving 10 minutes flash of times between each coat and 30 minutes between applying clear coat. Step 16. Apply 5 or 6 coats of clear coat within 1000 grit scratches, not exceeding them, giving about 10 minutes flash of time between each coat. Apply first coat medium wet and the rest of the coats full on wet. Step 17. Remove masking tape with the newspaper after few hours. Step 18. After few days, you may use some rubbing compound very gently and polishing compound to blend the painted area in. If you paint the entire panel, follow the instructions on the right side of the screen. Step 10. Mask off the surrounding area, like panels, windows, or door handles, with masking tape and a newspaper. Step 11. Scav the repair area with 320 grit sandpaper. Step 12. Scav the rest of the panel with 600 grit sandpaper. Step 13. Clean the area thoroughly with a compressed air can, a cotton cloth, and a tack cloth. Step 14. Apply 3 coats of primer within 320 grit scratches. If you used sandable primer, then give about 10 minutes flash of time between each coat. Wait for 30 minutes after last coat was applied and scav the primed area with 600 grit sandpaper. If you used primer sealer, recommended epoxy primer 2K, then you do not need to scav the primer prior to paint application. Use 2K spray cans and refer to the flash of times on the cans. Apply 3 coats of paint to the entire panel, giving about 10 minutes flash of time between each coat and about 30 minutes drying period before applying clear coat. Step 16. Apply 5 or 6 coats of clear coat to the panel, starting with first coat medium wet and the rest of the coats full on wet. Step 17. Remove masking tape as soon as you are done with clear coating. Do it slowly and be very careful. Step 18. After a few days, you may use some rubbing compound very gently and polishing compound to blend the painted area in. Step 19. After about 3 months, you may apply good quality wax to increase the protection of the painted area and to add some shine. For the best results, you may wax the entire car. This section is dedicated to painting mistakes. Here is an example of metallic paint that was scabbed prior to applying clear coat on it. The scabbing process quickly got rid of the metallic flakes in the new paint job and turned it non-metallic. Don't scab the metallic paint. Let the fresh paint job flash off for about 30 minutes and apply clear coat on it. In order to fix that, the new paint job had to be scabbed again, this time thoroughly, with 600 grit sandpaper and repainted. There were 2 mistakes made at this screw-up. Mistake number 1. Paint was applied slightly outside of the scuffed area. Mistake number 2. Metallic paint was scuffed. While the metallic paint was being scuffed, it started to peel off from non-scuffed area and then it stopped peeling off from the scuffed area. That's why the border between new paint job and the factory paint job looks like southern border of Maryland. Scuffing also removed the metallic flakes. There could be 2 reasons why the paint in this area wrinkled a little. Reason number 1. Clear coat was applied too quickly before new paint job flashed off completely. Reason number 2. Paint was applied to non-scuffed area and then clear coated. Minor mistakes of this kind might not be very visible, and usually one could notice them only if pointed out or after examining car thoroughly. This hood was painted with 1K clear coat about 1.5 years ago. Recently, I found some bird waste on it that was sitting on the hood for a couple of days, so I grabbed a wet rag and removed it. Unfortunately, the waste caused minor but permanent damage to the 1K clear coat. One way to reduce vulnerability of this 1K clear coat is to keep waxing it every couple of months with good quality wax. Wait some 3 months before waxing new paint job. You may wax sooner if the weather is hotter. Wax only in shade and when the car's body is cooled off. Always use good quality 2K clear coat. There were several different panels painted on this car. I will mark each panel that was painted with an X and each area that was painted with a circle. There could be a few reasons why the new paint on this car didn't perfectly match the original factory finish. The primer, paint, and clear coat that were used were all 1K products. Paint was applied in a garage where the outside temperature was around 100 Fahrenheit. There is still a lot of orange peel in the painted panels. The company that was ordered to make the paint might not have done a thorough job. The factory paint was 7 years old at the time of painting and it faded a little. The painting process was redone 3 times due to painting mistakes. There may have been too many coats of paint applied. Always make sure that the company that is making paint for your car does a thorough job with matching your car's factory paint and takes under consideration the age of the paint on your car. Otherwise, there may be a small mismatch in colors. If you painted the area behind the license plate and find out that your license plate holds on only on 2 screws instead of 4, then it may cause your license plate to bang on your newly painted area while you drive. In order to prevent that, you may apply some self-adhesive foam weather seal on the reverse side of your license plate to prevent it from banging on the newly painted area and possibly causing some damage. The foam weather seal could be found in any hardware store. The hood was redone a couple of times. The slight color differences got created after clear coat application. The 1K aerosol clear coat that was used proved to have some trouble with proper evaporation from horizontally allocated surfaces, like this hood. It evaporated properly from vertically allocated surfaces, like the car's door. Always use a high-quality 2K clear coat. There is some orange peel on the painted areas of this car. Orange peel occurs when the paint dries to a bumpy finish resembling an orange peel. It is usually the result of improper painting technique and is caused by the rapid evaporation of thinner that could be caused by too hot temperature, or spraying the paint at an angle other than perpendicular, or applying excessive paint. Orange peel can be reduced or removed completely with fine cut or medium cut cleaners and polishing compounds.